Okay, let's unpack this. WWDC 2025, Apple's big developer conference. It's basically here, and you can really feel the buzz building up, can't you?
Oh, absolutely. It always happens. But this year, yeah, the rumors feel, I don't know, weightier.
Definitely. It's not just like minor tweaks. The reports we're digging into suggest some pretty fundamental shifts could be coming across the board, really.
Yep, across the whole software lineup, things could look and feel quite different.
And that's exactly what we're going to dive into today. We've got a bunch of source material giving us a fascinating look at what might get unveiled next week. We're focusing especially on watchOS and iOS rumors.
Right, so our mission here is to, walk you through these rumors, pull out the most interesting potential features, and really try to figure out what it all means for how you actually use your devices day to day.
Yeah, it's about the implications, not just a feature list.
Exactly.
So, where do we kick off? How about something that honestly surprised me but could be quite big picture? The actual naming.
Ah, yeah, the version numbers.
Right. Instead of, iOS 19 or watchOS 12 like you'd expect, the reports say Apple's jumping straight to 26, iOS 26, watchOS 26, iPadOS 26, macOS 26, tvOS 26, even VisionOS 26. A clean sweep, all aligned to 26.
What's the thinking there? The sources seem to point to something specific.
Well, the rumor is they want to align the version number with the release cycle. So 26 reflects the software season, basically September 2025 through September 2026.
Okay, that's tidy. It feels strategic, maybe simplifying things, tying the software to the year more clearly.
Could be. For developers, for marketing, maybe even sets up future product schedules, who knows? It's a bold move, jumping so many numbers.
It really is. And speaking of bold moves, another big coordinated change that keeps coming up is a whole new visual style.
Ah, yes. Drawing inspiration from VisionOS, apparently.
The Solarium design. That's the internal name, right? The descriptions talk about this very glass-like translucent look. Think frosted glass. Exactly. Like interface elements, buttons, search bars, tab bars, menus might get this translucent kind of rounded look, maybe floating above the content more.
Simplified navigation, too, potentially. It sounds like a pretty major overhaul.
It does. And the goal, reading between the lines in the sources, seems pretty clear. Apple wants a much more consistent look and feel across all the devices.
Right. You might even argue we're seeing hints of it already if you squint at newer things like the Apple Sports app or invites.
Yeah, possibly. And taking that consistency idea further, bringing a VisionOS type look to everything else. It feels like they're trying to unify the whole ecosystem's feel.
More than just aesthetics, then.
I think so. It's like subtly preparing us for interfaces that might blend more with the real world eventually. Hints of spatial computing's influence, maybe. It feels like groundwork.
That's a really interesting take, not just pretty but purposeful. Okay, let's zoom in a bit, starting with the wristwatch OS 26.
So yeah, definitely slated to get the Solarium design treatment, which probably means new watch faces designed to match that whole glassy vibe.
Makes sense. And what about Apple Intelligence? The watch itself doesn't have the horsepower for the heavy AI stuff, right?
Right, not for complex on-device processing like the high-end iPhones.
Hmm.
But the rumors suggest it'll get features powered by Apple Intelligence. The key thing is, they'll lean heavily on the connection to your iPhone.
So the iPhone does the work, the watch shows the result, like maybe that AI-powered battery management feature we've heard rumored for the phone.
That's the kind of thing, yeah. Now, the sources are a bit less clear on stuff like full ChatGPT via Siri or the writing tools coming directly to the watch interface in watchOS 26, or even notification summaries yet. But that iPhone link is crucial for anything smart.
This really highlights how interconnected everything is becoming, like that rumored AirPods sleep detection feature for iOS 26.
Exactly. That would absolutely need data from the Apple Watch to know when you actually drift off.
And thinking longer term, that big rumored revamp for the health app in iOS 26, the AI coaching, the food tracking.
Oh yeah, that's going to rely heavily on all the data your watch is constantly gathering.
So, sticking with health on the watch itself, what about new native features? Blood pressure monitoring keeps coming up.
It does. The sources suggest it's in development, focusing on alerting you to potential hypertension trends, rather than giving you specific systolic-diastolic numbers like a cuff. Important distinction.
But its readiness for watchOS 26 is a bit up in the air. Could be delayed.
That seems to be the case, yeah. Still uncertain for this cycle.
And fitness. Strength training's always felt a bit basic, just tracking time and heart rate. No rep counting.
True. There is that interesting Apple patent about using maybe an iPhone camera to count reps, which is clever, but doesn't sound like something directly in watchOS 26 itself just yet. More like a future possibility.
Okay. And one more slightly random but interesting detail from a patent.
The drowning detection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, just a patent from 2024, no confirmation for this year, but it shows where their head is at for future safety features. Very Apple Watch.
Definitely. Okay, so let's pivot from the wrist to the iPhone, iOS 26. What are the sources pointing to for core app updates?
Messages seems to be getting some attention. Automatic translation, incoming and outgoing, that's pretty big.
Huge, yeah.
Yeah.
And polls, finally getting polls in group chats.
Long overdue. What else? Music app.
Potentially getting full screen animated album art on the lock screen. Could look quite nice.
And notes. Anything practical there?
Yeah, adding support for markdown export, which, a lot of people will appreciate.
Definitely useful. And CarPlay is also getting dragged into the future.
Seems so. Expected to get a big UI refresh to match the new iOS 26 Solarium look. Consistency again.
Right. Okay, back to Apple Intelligence, but on the iPhone itself. We mentioned the AI battery management.
Yeah, the idea there is it learns your specific usage patterns over time and adjusts things dynamically to stretch out the battery life.
Which could be especially useful for some of those rumored new iPhone models, like maybe that thinner Air version.
Potentially, yeah. Makes sense.
What about shortcuts? Always felt powerful, but a bit fiddly.
AI could help there. The sources suggest Apple Intelligence might let you create automations, just using natural language.
Yeah.
Just tell it what you want it to do.
That would be a game changer for shortcuts adoption.
Totally. And, interestingly, the possibility of Google Gemini integration is also mentioned.
As an alternative to ChatGPT within Siri, giving users a choice.
Seems to be the idea floated in some reports.
Gotcha. We should probably mention, though, some of those advanced Siri features Apple already previewed: personal context, screen awareness, deeper app control.
Right, those might be delayed.
Yeah.
Might not make the initial iOS 26 cut. Development timelines can slip.
True. Okay, what else? A new gaming app.
Yeah, replacing Game Center. Supposedly a proper hub for finding games, connecting with friends, achievements, the works. A needed refresh.
Okay, this next one sounds wild. AirPods Live Translate.
Yeah, an iOS 26 feature needs an AirPods firmware update too, but the idea is real-time translation of conversations happening around you fed through your AirPods.
Wow, like a personal universal translator for travelers.
Pretty much. On the more mundane but useful side, connectivity improvements.
Like syncing those annoying captive Wi-Fi logins across devices.
Exactly. Log in once, you're good everywhere. And maybe making it easier to transfer an eSIM to an Android phone. Addressing a niche but real pain point.
Okay. And the health app we mentioned, the AI coaching and food tracking rely on the watch, but the app itself in iOS 26.
Yeah, that whole revamp is definitely rumored, but there are also whispers it might not be fully baked for the initial launch. Maybe an iOS 26 point release later.
We'll have to wait and see on that one. Now, this is maybe the most intriguing rumor for power users. Stage Manager on the iPhone.
Right, but specifically when a USB-C iPhone is plugged into an external display, it would allow multi-app windowing, like resizing app windows.
So basically turning your docked iPhone into a more desktop-like experience.
That's the potential, yeah. Could fundamentally change workflows for some people.
Very interesting. Okay, let's not forget accessibility. Apple always highlights this, and iOS 26 seems to have a lot.
Absolutely. Things like customizing music haptics, those accessibility nutrition labels in the App Store.
A system-wide accessibility reader for text customization.
CarPlay gets useful additions too, like large text and sound recognition, including that specific alert if it detects a crying baby.
That's quite specific. Plus more background sounds customization, faster personal voice creation.
And updates to head and eye tracking, even support for BCI devices.
Brain-computer interfaces. Wow.
Yeah, allowing control potentially just through thought. Really cutting-edge stuff.
Okay, quick hop over to the iPadOS 26.
Predictably, also getting the Solarium design treatment, that consistent look again.
And beyond looks, the rumors seem to focus on productivity, right? Making it more Mac-like.
Exactly. Focus on multitasking, better window management. There's even talk of a proper Mac-style menu bar appearing when you use a Magic Keyboard, really leaning into that laptop replacement angle.
Makes sense. Okay, the million-dollar question for many. Compatibility. Who gets left behind with iOS 26?
The sources are pointing towards the iPhone XR, the XS, and the XS Max potentially not getting the update.
So iPhone 11 and newer should be okay for iOS 26 itself.
Generally, yes. But, and this is important, some of the really advanced stuff, especially Apple Intelligence features, will likely need newer hardware. Think iPhone 15 Pro or probably the upcoming iPhone 16 models.
Right, so it's not just getting the OS, it's getting all the features. Nuanced compatibility.
Precisely.
Okay, so let's try and wrap this all up. If we pull back, the big themes from the sources seem to be this major system-wide design refresh,
Strategic, maybe simplifying jump-in version numbers.
a bunch of practical, often requested features landing in core apps like messages and notes,
A continued deep focus on health and accessibility features.
and lots of hints about making devices work even more closely together, especially with AI involved.
Yeah, that unification push feels really strong. The VisionOS-inspired design across everything, the interconnected AI.
Yeah.
It feels like they're trying to create a really cohesive, maybe slightly futuristic feel for the whole ecosystem.
Laying groundwork, like you said earlier.
Exactly. It feels like they're setting the stage for how these devices interact, not just with each other, but maybe with the world around us down the line.
So, thinking about all these rumored changes, the Solarium look, the app updates, the health potential, the AI battery stuff, what's the one thing jumping out at you as most exciting? Or maybe the thing you're most skeptical about actually landing this year?
That's tough.
Yeah.
The potential for truly useful AI integration beyond just clever summaries is exciting, but also easy to overhype. And to flip it back, considering this potential scale of change, the visual overhaul, the interconnected features, how do you imagine this software shift might genuinely change your daily habits with your iPhone and Apple Watch over the coming year? That's the real question, isn't it? Lots to think about before the official word drops.